I was born and raised most of my life in Indiana. I was not raised in a Christian home, and my parents divorced when I was under the age of 3. My mom had 7 children. I'm the youngest of her children. She was previously married before my dad, and all of my siblings are from her first marriage. My dad blessed me with 5 more siblings. I'm the oldest of his siblings. I'm an only child between my mother and father, so strangely, I'm the oldest, the youngest, a middle child, and an only child. Let that sink in. Being the youngest of my mom's children, most of my siblings were grown and moved out by the time I could even remember. One of my oldest sisters attended the Nazarene Church in South Bend and occasionally took me with her. That is where I learned about Jesus, or started to learn about Jesus. Although I didn't understand it much, I loved going to church and singing Bible songs. They stuck in my head and always gave me joy when I sang them. I attended Awana and memorized my first Bible verse, John 3:16, "For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life." I wasn't sure I was ready to live forever, but I knew that I was ready to believe in Jesus. I was not good at memorizing Bible verses, so I figured God must have really wanted me to remember that one. It was just me and my brother Scott and my sister Mandy for a while growing up. My mom worked in a factory and often worked nights, so we took care of ourselves and stayed with others. She had some not so good relationships and we moved a lot. My mom is the sweetest, kindest, and most gentle woman I have ever known. I know she was doing her best after failed marriages, losing a child, and the life she came from and lived in. I don't remember her ever being shaken by her circumstances. She never raised her voice and always did what she could to help others. She taught me to love unconditionally, believe in God, pray when times were rough, and trust that it would all be okay. Although we didn't attend church, I knew my mom believed in God and prayed often. Her unwavering patience, kindness, and passion could only be a blessing from God. My mom married, and I gained 3 stepsisters, a stepsister and 3 stepbrothers, but none of them lived with us. My stepfather wasn't always bad, but he had a deep love for whiskey. And if you know anything about drinking whiskey, you know sometimes there's a dark side when they drink too much. Our childhood was rough, and no one outside of our home really knew what it was like. I prayed a lot and begged God to protect us, and he always did. Pastor Van Dyne I read this a lot of times without crying, darn it. Pastor Van Dyne was from the First Baptist Church, knocked on our door. He introduced himself and asked if he could come in to visit. He talked to us about God and invited us to church, but we never went. He visited us often, and one day I decided to go. I walked to church the following Sunday and many Sundays after that and went to church camp. While attending church camp, I accepted the Lord Jesus Christ into my heart and finally started understanding what it was all about. I remembered them telling me that God was my protector and that as long as I believed in him, I would always be safe. At 13, I thought I was a full-grown adult. I started working and hanging out with friends that were much older than me. I started going to parties, smoking, drinking, and actually thought I was pretty cool. I kind of forgot about God. I was letting the world carry me. I met this blonde-haired, blue-eyed, hunky guy with big dimples named Phil. Yes, that was my husband. And hung out with him all summer long. We were each other's first boyfriend and girlfriend, and we talked about everything, except for how old we were. School was about to start, and we quickly realized we were 3 years apart. He was in his last year of middle school, and I was in elementary school. It wasn't weird until he became a freshman, and I was just entering middle school. We quickly decided we were better off as friends. Although I was heartbroken, I completely understood. I was only 15, and I accepted that God had other plans. Although not every Sunday, I still attended the Baptist church, and Pastor Van Dyne continued to stop by our house and try to talk our family into attending. I was baptized that year and still prayed to move out all the time. Out of the blue, I was asked if I would like to go to Kentucky for the summer and visit my godparents. I didn't even know or remember these people, but I packed my bags and said, "Yep, let's go." When they say God works in mysterious ways, that is an understatement. I love Kentucky, and I decided to stay there for 2 years. I went to church at a Mennonite church. Boy, I thought the Baptists were strict. I loved it, although I didn't understand why I wasn't even allowed to braid my hair. I learned what living in a loving family was like and made new friends and people treated me like family. I knew without a doubt that God had answered my prayers. As time went on, I missed my mom and my siblings and decided I wanted to go back home. Maybe things were better now. It was okay at first. I was a freshman in high school. All my friends were so excited that I came back, and I was a different person, or so I thought. I attended church, but Pastor Van Dyne had left, and it wasn't the same. The church didn't seem to reach out or genuinely care. It didn't take long for me to go back to being the same person I was before I left, or to remember why I left in the first place. Once again, I found myself in a hurry growing up and get out of the house. I dated a guy for a while, got pregnant, had a miscarriage. I was in love, then terrified, then excited, then devastated, while still dealing with my messed up home life. At the time, I felt unworthy and struggled with my faith. I realized later that God was protecting me and that unborn child from the person that man was going to become. I met my first husband in my senior year of high school. I soon realized he was several years older than me and thought, "Dang, girl, you really need to start asking people their age before you start talking." I'm still not good at guessing people's ages. I was not at all about dating someone much older than me, but he made me laugh and he was an escape from my reality. He had two daughters that I extremely adored. We got married when I was 25 and our amazing daughter Taylor had a year later. We lived in South Bend and attended Granger Community Church. I enjoyed that church, and the girls absolutely loved the slide going down to Sunday school. Although we had a lot of ups and downs, I felt like God was in control. We were blessed with our wonderful son, Caden, and although he was a surprise, I thought he was exactly what we needed. He was the perfect addition to our family and brought us so much joy. The first few months after he was born, things were better. I knew he was a gift from God, and I thought maybe having a son was exactly what he needed to change. However, my husband had a drug habit, and it was an ongoing battle. Our marriage struggled. I hated my life, and I was tired of being married, but feeling like a single mom. I took my vows seriously, and I tried hard to honor, for better or worse. I continued to go to church and ask him to go to counseling and beg God to give us guidance. I reached out to our preacher, but no one ever came, and the church was having their own issues. As the church was having their own issues, the preacher left the church. I later realized not only was my husband doing drugs, but he was dealing them out of our home, and I feared losing my children and going to jail with him. I cried for God to give us mercy and show me if he could stop in a way to stop doing these drugs before this happened. My stepfather passed away from cancer a few years prior, and my mom lived alone. She fell and we had to take her to the ER to get checked out. They decided to do a chest scan and listen to her lungs and diagnosed her with lung cancer. The kids and I moved in with her. I cried out and prayed continuously for God to show us some signs. What do I do, Lord? My mom won her battle with cancer. And he showed me plenty of signs that my husband was never going to change. And although it was so hard for me to think about not being part of those girls' lives for 17 years, I filed for divorce. I know God put me in their lives so that they would know him, and our bond will never be broken. I worked in finance. I worked as a finance manager at a car dealership, and Phil, that blonde-haired, blue-eyed, hunky guy, had gone through a divorce and came in looking for a car. We talked, and here and there, and he asked me to let him take me out for dinner for our birthdays since they were 8 days apart. After many attempts, I finally gave in. We talked for hours and hadn't laughed and smiled that much in a long time. I had not intended on going on a second date. His ex-wife was beyond crazy, and I definitely didn't want any part of that. However, God had other plans, and after a little while, convinced me it wasn't going to be easy, but I should give it a chance. I didn't know why. I felt God brought us together for a reason. Our relationship was challenging, to say the least, but God convinced us both that we were meant for each other. He became my husband and my best friend, and I gained 2 daughters and 2 sons, and now 10 precious grandchildren. Phil grew up as a Catholic, and I grew up as a Baptist. Our religious conversations were very interesting to both of us. We attended different churches, trying to decide on which one to call home. We started attending Plymouth Westland Church, and we enjoyed listening to our sermons, but wasn't sure that was the one. I attended PCC a couple times with a friend and really enjoyed the service. I convinced Phil to come to PCC and check it out, and he loved it. We didn't attend church regularly, but we believed wholeheartedly. We enjoyed attending services and then discussing what we had gotten out of the service. Phil had health issues and had several surgeries prior, but he was a trooper, and God had gotten us through all of our trials so far. COVID hit, and I was working from home a lot, and Phil was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. The news was devastating, and our whole world seemed to be crumbling down around us. Several months of chemo and radiation and surgery to remove the mass. We prayed every day and attended church praying for miracles, as we knew the odds were against him. The church was going through its own struggles, and we didn't really know anyone, so Phil liked to get here early and get his seat by the door so he could get out quickly when service was over. We put our faith in God. We were convinced he had a plan and would use it for his good. After surgery, they told us they got it all and he was going to be fine. His next set of scans told a different story, though. He started back on chemo and fought with everything he had. He was admitted to hospice and lost his battle to cancer on August 30th, 2023. We didn't know Pastor Brian, but he called us and prayed with us, and that meant the world to our whole family. Since then, PCC has been much more than just a church. You have been our family. I thought God sent us here because Phil needed you. But I realized he was protecting me and our family and knew that we were going to need you. Psalms 91, 1-16 teaches that those who trust dwell in God's presence, the Most High, will receive divine protection from dangers seen and unseen, as God acts as their refuge, fortress, and shield, promising deliverance from various dangers and calamities. God never promised life would be without trials, and the past few years have been the hardest. But I know God is not done with our story, and I am grateful that PCC is a part of it. We are grateful that PCC is a part of it. The love and support that our family has felt from the PCC family is amazing, and I understand now that church is not about pretending you have it all together. It's about the love and support you get when you need God the most. Thank you for being our family.